Good evening and welcome to Talkin Sports. I'm Mike Tanzini. If you listen to us on WNYO, you'll hear us breaking down statistics. But here on WTOP, we'll be breaking down sports issues. However, tonight we'll be doing something just a little bit different. We'll be breaking down a sport that is very popular around the world, but some would say it's not so popular here in the United States. That's right, we're talking soccer tonight. And here tonight to break down this growing culture in the U.S. are my guests, Will Smithson, Anthony Gornick, and Sam Watkins. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
So we'll start off with Sam here. It's kind of funny. We got our two returners from our first episode here. Our very vibrant guest, Anthony Gornick, here with the bright pink. So try to watch out for that. But moving to the soccer side of things, guys, where are we starting off? Like, where's the current state of soccer in the U.S.? We'll just start off with Major League Soccer because that's our kind of main professional version we have here. But where do we stand? Is it declining? Is it decreasing? Where are we?
The state of soccer in the United States has never been better. See, the MLS is growing, it's rising, the fans are really coming out. It's not just traditional soccer fans. MLS and soccer is really becoming the people's sport. It's not becoming something that's just for the old fans. Young people are getting into it too. That's what's really amazing. We saw with the MLS, they're expanding. By 2020, they hope to add 4 more teams. In 2015, New York Cosmics are going to be a team, which is really interesting considering there's already the New York Red Bulls. And having 2 teams competing in the same city just goes to show that soccer is growing in the United States, and I don't see why it's going to continue to stop growing.
Personally, I don't think soccer is on par with any other country in the world, and it comes down with how the schedule's set up. In Europe, the schedules start in August and work their way until May, and they have a short break in the summer. With how the MLS works, it starts a little bit earlier on and tries not to conflict with football, which is a huge thing for us here as Americans. So that's the one thing holding back the MLS is that schedule, being able to compete on a national stage worldwide.
What do you think, Anthony?
Well, I see it is a slight problem that you would say, as Will said, it's hard for soccer to compete with other major sports. But if you look at it, most kids growing up play soccer, and that's how it's been for years now in the U.S. It's just kind of like you play Little League or you play soccer or you play Pop Warner, but sometimes most kids will get thrown into all those. And I think that that spirit is really starting to show all the kids from our generation, at least, who played soccer and now bring it into more of a mainstream light, I'd say.
And soccer is one of those sports, too, a lot of people don't realize. It's a relatively non-expensive sport compared to football, where you have to buy all the equipment, the helmets, the shoulder pads, all that goes in there. I mean, even baseball, baseball bats run, $150, $200. A glove maybe gets you $40, $50, $60. Soccer, all you really need is a ball and some space. So for the youngins, it is a relatively popular thing. Now, Will touched on the schedule not conflicting with other major sports in the U.S., but I'll ask this question to Sam to start off with. Do you think if they want to make a move, do you think they should start competing with bigger sports in the U.S.?
I don't think that would be the right move. At some point in time, I think soccer and MLS may be able to compete, but right now they're rising, but they're not quite there yet. And to throw them into the mix with the NFL, MLB, and NBA, it's just going to bury them and put them back to where they were in 1996 when the MLS formed.
Will?
I will agree with that. Right now, it's probably not a smart move, but in order for them to be able to compete worldwide and have things like the UEFA Champions League, which is, we have something similar here, but it's from the national teams called CONCACAF Cup. We've got that, but we don't have things like the Champions League where we can have all the club teams of, say, United States and Canada, Mexico, and South America play each other in a country-wide competition, like UEFA and then Europa if you get knocked out of UEFA.
I think it is time for soccer to start competing with the bigger ones, especially the NBA. The NBA is dying, as we see. There are right now about 4 good teams in the league. Unless the NBA makes some serious moves, they're really going to hurt. They're already losing viewers by the millions every year. They really need to pull it together, and I think MLS could weasel its way in there and somehow beat NBA on some days, maybe try to match some things up to get some bigger coverage, and you never know what will happen.
Now, Will, I know you're a big fan of European soccer. I'm one who's not too familiar with some of the systems. Would it be possible for a U.S. team, maybe just one single U.S. team, if there were like a USA, I know it's the national team, but would there be maybe a club team, if you will, to compete with some of those other European teams?
You say like an all-star team that we could put together and put them up against a European club, or just a club in general that we have
a club
already?
that you could add on to their European leagues.
They're pretty isolated in that way, where you'll have your English teams, you'll have your Welsh teams, your Scottish teams, your Irish, and you break it down: France, Spain. It's pretty isolated to the separate country that you're talking about. So unless it's a say the UEFA Super Cup, where it's clubs from all over the world competing against each other, or the Club World Cup, I believe it's called, where clubs from all around the world can compete with each other. But right now, we don't have a team on the MLS that could at all challenge even a bottom-ranked tier English Premier League team. And you can see that whenever the big teams come over to America in the summer for their scrimmage games.
Now, on a similar note, I'll ask Sam here. Do you picture the U.S. putting together a string of teams to compete with this league other than the MLS? Or could the MLS eventually become something like that?
I think definitely could become something like that. But as far as putting a string of teams together, I'm not sure they really could compete right now, as Will said. So to put them against a stronger team in the English Premier League, perhaps, I think that would just, in the United States, we want to see the U.S. teams win. To put them against a team like that, they wouldn't win. I don't think that would hurt. I think that would hurt the ratings for the Americans to see their teams losing on the scale that I think they would if they were to face a European team.
Definitely. Now, Anthony, kind of a similar thing to you. Could you see anything like this happening? I know, they'd probably get beat up for the first couple of times, but don't you want to get knocked around by some real teams to see what the real competition's about? Maybe set up an exhibition game, something like that, to raise some fandom, if you will. It's a huge sport, and obviously, people in England love their soccer. We saw it when the NFL went to London. Yeah, there were what seemed like a lot of fans there, but it didn't seem like that was a big thing. And I think this is more of a European sport that is having trouble kind of surfacing in the U.S. I mean, we had the Women's World Cup, the huge thing, many years ago. That was something that really kind of raised awareness initially, especially for women's soccer specifically. But for MLS, what is there a different angle they could take to try to get more ratings? I mean, should they change the game? Should they try to get a new audience, new networks? What do you think?
I think right now they are gaining a new audience. There is a largely growing culture of soccer in this country, especially in New York City, as you see now picking up a second team, and people are already buying season tickets for the Cosmos, and they haven't even released, it's still up in the air when they're actually going to come into the league. But I think soccer is a huge growing fan sport right now, and I don't think they really need to do too much more than they're already doing.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll talk about some United States soccer specifically. Stay tuned here on WTOP 10.
Hey guys, this is my teenage friend Rachel. She's cool.
Hey. Hey, could you watch the road?
Hey, could you watch the road?
Okay. All right, well, if we die in a car crash, I want to donate my eyes to my neighbor, Gary. He has a boat, and he sails all around the world. I would love to see that. I don't know if he actually needs eyes, but who would turn down a free pair of eyes, right? Who's that rich?
So, April,
Yeah?
your charger's still using energy.
That's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Shocking drugs that road all the time. Just had a few drinks. Just can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear. We're just buzzed.
Just buzzed. You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right. This isn't happening. He'll be fine. I feel good.
Really?
No, not really.
Buzz driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shocking.
Welcome back to Talkin Sports. I am Mike Tanzini. Tonight we're talking soccer, and now let's move on. We talked about a little bit of MLS. Now let's move on to U.S. national soccer. We'll start off with a man who basically has become the face of U.S. soccer. We start off on this side of the table, so we'll switch it up. We'll start off with Anthony over here. Landon Donovan, a guy that kind of resurfaced American soccer, if you will. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
He's been around for years. Unfortunately, he only recently became as famous as he is for scoring those 2 last-minute goals in the World Cup and putting U.S. ahead through the round. But he's actually growing older now, so calling him the face it's a good thing, and it's good for him to have worked his way up to this point. But I feel like it's time for him to find someone to pass that torch on to. Almost, he's getting old. I think he's almost in his 40s, and even though it is soccer, they tend to play a little later. Even that's pushing it for a professional sport.
Will, what do you think?
He's a great player, had a great career, both here in America and then the short stint he had in England. People in England loved him, and when he came back, he was a better player. And it's sad that he's getting old, but at the same time, like Anthony said, he needs to find somebody to pass that torch on to, somebody younger who can rejuvenate the sport and get it a little bit more exciting for this new day and age.
Now, do you see someone on the current U.S. team that could kind of take his place, kind of take the reins of the team?
The only person I could probably think of that might be able to do that as far as a national on the U.S. national team, maybe Jersey Altidore. He's a great striker, has a great finish to his ball. He's probably the only person that could probably take that. But, time will tell.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Altidore, because next to Donovan, he's probably one of the most well-known guys in the team. But for Donovan, he is the face of the team right now. And if you look overseas, every team there has a superstar player, a player the fans can attach to. And although he's not on the same level as those players over there, because over there those guys are superstars, they're celebrities, Donovan isn't quite in the same stardom there. But for the U.S. team, he is what they need right now. And I'm not sure if the World Cup is going to be the right time to try to transition somebody into his role, because you need to win there, and it's not a time for experimenting. But I think after the World Cup coming up this summer, it would be a good time to try to move Donovan out of that role and find somebody who's going to eventually have to take over for him.
Now, Anthony, at least in my opinion, I feel like a lot of people are pretty popular or think that MLS is pretty popular. But would you say that the U.S. national team is more popular than MLS? Do you think people were going to root for U.S. as a whole instead of just individual Major League Soccer teams?
Yes, definitely. I think it is more likely, actually, for people to root for the U.S. as a whole, just because, as you can see, there's Uncle Sam's Army, which is put in place, which is a group of followers that go to every game. They don't miss it, even if it's an exhibition, stupid game against the U13 team of some random high school. These guys are going to show up, and they're going to support the team, and I think that's really important.
The U.S. Soccer Batting Brigade, if you will. Anyone? Don't be shy now. Jump right in there.
If you ask me, I think playing with the men's national team, I think they are recognized as better than most MLS teams. That's only because they get more coverage. You see, the MLS finals are this weekend with Sporting Kansas City's playing that. How many people actually know about that? But the coverage is great for the men's national team. Even though they're not important contests, even their qualifying matches are televised and are placed on big-time, primetime television. I think it's a matter of the media, and maybe even Landon Donovan. He's a guy that players can attach to, as I said before. And I don't know if there's anyone on the MLS teams that players and casual fans really can identify with, but I think that's going to change over the coming years when the MLS continues to grow.
Now, Will, what do you think about the chances in the upcoming World Cup for the United States? I know in recent years it's been kind of a struggle. Is this a different year? It seems like they have a better following this time, and a lot of people are rooting for them in the country much more than before. How do you think they'll fare?
With them going down to Brazil, I can definitely see them faring well. Whether they win, that's a little lofty dream, but I do see the United States finishing very high this year, maybe another 8th place finish. They kind of have the team that went down to Mexico, wasn't afraid to play in the worst stadium to play in this hemisphere. The fans are absolutely crazy there. They make us, as Oswego State Laker hockey fans, look tame. And like to the point where they have razor wire and barbed wire fences surrounding the pitch so fans don't throw things on there. So with them going up against Mexico and standing them up, I do think the United States can make a run into at least the Elite Eight.
Now, Sam, do you think that the popularity or the finish of this year's of the U.S. National team, do you think that will affect soccer's popularity? If they do well, will it become more popular? If they don't do well, will it kind of lay low? What do you think?
I think that's the case. For both the men and women's national teams, we've seen the interest in soccer spike after they succeeded in the tournaments and the World Cups. I think this is going to be the biggest, the most talked about televised event in soccer history for the United States. Never before, in my opinion, has it been more popular, and there's so much hype over this coming World Cup. The U.S. team has grown, they're improved, regardless of the fact that some of their guys are getting older, and I think this is going to be a huge spectacle when come June.
Now, Anthony, we'll have the last word with you. Before we go to break, how will the U.S. finish in the World Cup?
I'm going to have to agree with Will. I'd say 8th is probably the best they'll end up. It'd be nice to see them do better, but I don't see it happening this year. Maybe in a few years to come, but just too many old guys and too many young guys. There's no one right in the middle, really, and I feel like that's a big issue.
Would 8th place be a moral victory?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break here on Talkin Sports. Stay tuned right here on WTOP 10. We will be right back.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hi, I'm CNN's Rob Marciano, and you're watching WTOP 10, your television station.
TV station way back then? Of course, WTOP.
This can't be happening.
This can't be happening. Of course it's not happening. Armored car. Listen, having money isn't about luck. Make your own coffee, save $1,000 a year. Feed me. Feed the pig.
Oh, Italy, the biggest racist. Welcome back here on Talkin Sports. I am Mike Tanzini here with my guests tonight, Sam Watkins, Will Smithson, and the very vibrant Anthony Gornick in the bright pink. Can't even look in your direction, man. It's getting tough. Got a glare in the side of my eyes here. Well, before we sign off, we got about 5 or 6 minutes left in our final topic. We talked about the U.S.'s chances in the World Cup. Now let's talk about the overall World Cup. We'll start off now. We'll just start off with Sam. Who are your favorites?
There are a few teams that I think are a class above the rest. I think Spain and Italy are 2 teams you have to watch, but I don't see why more people aren't talking about Brazil. They have a great team. They have Neymar, who's I think could be one of the breakout players this year. And they are playing home, which I think may actually go to their disadvantage because they have such high expectations. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Brazil come out on top here.
Will?
My biggest surprise so far leading up into the World Cup has been the fall of Mexico. They used to be a dominant powerhouse, at least in this hemisphere, and now they've sort of fallen to the wayside, barely squeaking in with a 2-game playoff against New Zealand. But I can see, like Sam said, Spain, maybe Italy. I really like Germany for some reason. They seem like a really strong team this year. England definitely, has some chances, but they need to really improve their game to really win.
Now, I believe the U.S. did defeat Mexico in order to qualify or tie?
I believe so.
Okay, so do you think that was a mixture of the U.S. being good and Mexico being bad, or Mexico on an off night, or is U.S. starting to get back?
I think it has a lot to do with the United States becoming a more powerhouse in this hemisphere as far as soccer goes.
Do you think they're a feared team compared to some other?
I mean, going in with the fearlessness they did into Mexico City and being able to play the way they did down there, that takes a lot of heart, it takes a lot of courage to be able to pull a game off like that.
Anthony?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go along the common theme and stick with Spain as my favorite this year. And I have to agree with Sam. I was very surprised about the lack of talk about Brazil. They're hosting. They're traditionally one of the better teams. They usually go in a favorite. And yet everyone seems to have pushed them under the table almost, just kind of like they didn't do too well in the last World Cup, so it's almost like that's hurting them. But I don't know. I think they're going to really pull it together this year, and I think Brazil actually is the team to watch.
We'll keep it right over here with you, Anthony. We talked about some of our favorites now. How about some surprises that have come into the World Cup?
Well, my big surprise was the U.S. getting into the World Cup after not making it into the Olympics, which was just a tragedy and just awful within itself. I was very unsure about us even making it into to the World Cup, especially with Mexico, who, like Will said, was a big surprise with the way they basically crumbled in the World Cup qualifying session, being forced to go up against New Zealand and barely getting in. I think that might have been a helpful thing for the U.S. because I really was not expecting them to end up in the race.
Any big surprises from you, Will?
I'll stick with my what I've already talked about with Mexico and their absolute collapse. That was stunning.
I agree with the United States over there because for a team to come back like they did and not qualify for the Olympics, but to come back with resolve and stay with it and qualify for the World Cup, and they played pretty dominantly to qualify for the World Cup. So I think this team may not finish as high as some people expect, but just the fact that they get there is a big deal. I think they are gonna perform well. I don't know, they're not the best team there. They're not gonna make it all the way to the finals like some people foolishly hope. But I think this is a team to watch. I think they could make some noise once they get to the World Cup.
Now, I mean, I know it's still very unclear on who's playing who and whatnot. Any maybe like possible upsets? Are there any kind of fringe teams that they could make it very high? They could also kind of dump down lower in the standings. I know a team like Portugal has been very successful in the past, but not so much from what you guys are saying. Maybe not so much anymore. So, any kind of like fringe teams to watch out for?
There are a few fringe teams, but I think it all depends on where they get picked and where they get picked in the draw, which is actually this Friday. If you're placed in a tough pot, which I think the United States may be, it's going to be really hard to come out. And as good as the United States or any other team may be, they go up against a team like Brazil or Italy or Spain, they may not even make it through the first round. So it all depends on what happens on Friday.
I will agree. It all comes down to the draw. If we can get a favorable draw with the U.S., then we can go far. I think one of the teams to watch out for is England. They have a big vendetta to sort of come back and be great again since their collapse in the last World Cup.
Now, Anthony, there's some players that are definitely star players. Any one particular team in mind that has just one guy that is a big difference maker?
Going back to Portugal, I'd say you got to watch out for Cristiano Ronaldo. He's one
Seems
of,
like we've been saying that for about 20 years now.
He's one of, if not the best player in the world. He's the fastest guy for his age. He can make it down a sideline in 10 seconds flat, and the defender won't even know he's there. He's definitely a guy to watch. Portugal may not have a great supporting cast, but I think with that guy, anyone can be good.
Now, before we go to break, guys, very quickly, let's talk about what is your biggest expectation for this upcoming World Cup?
I think it's going to be fantastic to see all these teams coming together in Brazil. I mean, every 4 years, I think this is another chance for the United States to show how much they've grown, how their love for soccer has grown. As far as expectations on the pitch, I think this is a pretty strong group this year. We are going to see some upsets, as we always do, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a team that not many people are talking about come through and finish maybe even higher than 8th, as we predicted the United States to.
One of my big things looking in for Brazil is they've had some structural problems with some of their stadiums this last weekend with the collapse. That to me is going to be something to watch out for, that their stadiums can hold the capacity crowds.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to agree with Will. Their stadiums are not that safe. That's been proven. Let's just hope nothing goes wrong.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Stay tuned. We'll wrap this whole thing up when we come back here, right here on WTOP 10.
Hey guys, this is my teenage friend Rachel. She's cool.
Hey. Hey, could you watch the road?
Hey, could you watch the road?
Okay. All right, well, if we die in a car crash, I want to donate my eyes to my neighbor Gary. He has a boat, and he sails all around the world. I would love to see that. I don't know if he actually needs eyes, but who would turn on a free pair of eyes, right? Who's that rich?
Brought to you by the letter W.
I'll fall from your grace, but I'll never let go of your hand. I'll never let go of your hand. I'll never let go of your hand.
All right. All right, guys, welcome back to Talkin Sports for the final time this season. Thank you very much for being here, guys. How was it for you?
It was a great season. Can't wait to come back next semester and have another season going at Talkin Sports.
I mean, it was kind of fitting for Anthony and I to be on the show, the season finale, just like we were on the season premiere, and a good old Waterbury third floor reunion.
Just thanks for having me back, Mike. Always great to be on the show.
Always a pleasure to have you all here. Well, that will do it for us this season on Talkin Sports. Thank you all very much for following us, for following our premiere season, if you will, on Talkin Sports on WTOP. As always, remember to follow us on Twitter at Talkin Sports MVT. Remember to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/TalkinSports Oswego, and listen to us every Sunday. Our season finale coming up on WNYO from 2 to 4. Coming up next is the premiere of We Go Live, next on WTOP 10. Good night, Oswego.